Living in a dark academia setting is simply heaven for many book lovers. Beyond blazes, caffeine overdoses, and dim-lit libraries, the dark academia aesthetics values knowledge and intellectual exploration above all else. Like most internet aesthetics, dark academia was created on Tumblr during the early or mid-2010s, before it became a worldwide trend during the lockdown, when all students could not go to school anymore and started to imagine a beautiful place where they could study. With the popularity of dark academia, many people have created more subtypes that align with their values. These subtypes provide a more diverse aesthetics for those who are finding an understanding community and a style that truly resonates with them. So today, we'll take a look at types of academia along with their values, overall visuals, activities, and recommended books and movies. After watching this video, feel free to leave a comment and tell us which style you relate to the most. Dark academia. Dark academia was the original version of academia aesthetics, centered around higher education, art, literature, and the essence of intellectuality and mystery. The word dark in dark academia can refer to many things. One is the dark theme. Beside academia themes, the academia books often include crime, murder, and secret society. Speaking of secret societies, another aspect that makes this style dark is how knowledge has an almost forbidden presence. Normally, knowledge is associated with light, but knowledge can become dark since the traditional pursuit of humanities study is exclusive to those who have money. Though the internet has made such study more accessible, getting completely involved in and choosing the humanities as the major is not something those in need of money can easily do. And this is how knowledge is not in the light, but kept only to few people in the dark. To capture the essence of this esteemed academic style, dark academia fashion draws the inspiration from private school like Oxford and Ivy League, featuring either gentlemanly or ladylike garments. The aesthetic is commonly associated with autumn. So, in dark academia, the color palette revolves around dark tones, especially dark brown, with complementary colors like dark green, burgundy, gold, and black. Here are some fundamental fashion items for a dark academia look. Popular options for tops are button-ups, turtlenecks, and blouses, dress pants or pleated skirts for bottom, and apart from plain ones, the plaid patterns are a nice option too. For extra layers, you can wear a vest, a blazer, a trench coat, or a nice warm cardigan. For accessories, you can opt for leather like leather boots. Dr. Martens offers shoes for footwear. Leather belts and bags would make the look more academic. Other recommended accessories are glasses, dainty gold necklaces, and earrings. Creating a dark academia mood board or decorating a dark academia room can be quite interesting because this aesthetic draws inspiration from various time periods, which are early to mid-1900s fashion, Gothic architecture, Renaissance values of learning and also the paintings, classic literature, and sometimes classical Greek and Roman literature. So, the items or elements that will make your board or your room look dark academia are books, obviously, marble statues or Greek statues, skulls, vintage stationery like fountain pens or typewriters, candles, old papers, moth, ornate picture frames, and if you need to choose a background, then it's a night sky or rainy days. Now, let's move on to some dark academia activities. In dark academia, you can immerse yourself in academic activities like studying, learning, reading, writing, playing chess or other mind-stimulating activities, and visiting museums and galleries. Additionally, non-academic activities like dinner parties and coffee dates can also be included. Some sports associated with private school like cricket, horseback riding, and archery can evoke the dark academia vibe. Not only do modern studies show that the exercise is good for your brain, but when Plato and Aristotle also see physical training as a part of intellectual learning. But just walking, wandering, or strolling is a good alternative to feel, dark academia while doing some exercise, since walking allows your mind to wander into deep thoughts. But really, if you want to exercise, just do it. Alright, so we got values, visuals, and activities. Finally, the most prominent part of this aesthetics, the books. You can't talk about dark academia books without mentioning The Secret History and If We Were Villains, both a crime book within a school setting featuring students and exclusive study group. Other books are The Maidens, a story about a murder at Cambridge University, and The Magicians, a story about a secret magic academy in New York. Other books to read are classical Greek literature, classic fiction, and detective stories like Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes or Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot. For movies, Dead Poets Society is kind of a must-watch. Kill Your Darlings and Queen's Gambit are also very dark academia. And since Dead Poets Society was a movie that the style is based on, and also it's basically recommended everywhere, I would add The Imitation Game as another recommendation. Next, we have Light Academia. You can say that this style is the opposite of the Dark Academia. Light Academia focuses on joy from learning, optimism, and happiness. Instead of reading in the dark, Light Academia prefers reading in the sun, like during the golden hour or in the morning, preferably during the picnic without a small group of friends. Though Light Academia took visual inspirations from the Victorians, Renaissance, and British private school like Dark Academia, more often than not, you'll find that Light Academia aesthetics pull a lot of inspiration from the neoclassical or pre-Raphaelite periods. Colors for Light Academia outfits or decorations are mainly cream, light brown, and white. Other colors you can incorporate are those kind of dusty, low-saturated pink, green, and blue. For fashion, button-ups, blazers, and leather shoes and other preppy coats are also in Light Academia lookbook. While Dark Academia fashion is associated with autumn, Light Academia is spring, so Light Academia layering tends to look lighter. And like Dark Academia, books, notebooks, papers, letters, and vintage stationery are items seen in Light Academia aesthetic. You can switch some dark elements to marbles, pearls, butterfly, and latte coffee to give your image a livelier mood. And instead of night sky background, Light Academia is more of a bright sky. Typical academic activities like learning, reading, writing, and visiting galleries and museums are, of course, something the Light Academia community enjoys. Picnics and reading in the sun, as mentioned, are activities for Light Academia mood, or you can try baking, knitting, and embroidery as well. Now, book recommendations if you think positivity plus learning is absolutely your thing. Classics like Emma and Little Woman are excellent choices for Light Academic reading, and also The Little Paris Bookshop, a story about a bookseller who can select books that heal each person's emotional wounds. It's also a very heartwarming story for Light Academia reading. This book explores the concept of love, loss, and self-discovery, which also are very fitting for Romantic Academia, the style which I will talk about soon. Movies like Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility are not only recommended because they are book adaptations, but also because they can give visual inspiration alongside captivating stories. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel, another book adaptation, is a heartwarming one to watch. The story is about a writer who exchanged letters with a book club on the island of Guernsey after the World War II, exploring their wartime experiences. Romantic Academia. If you think that Dark Academia is too dark and Light Academia is too bright, you might love Romantic Academia. Some people may shy away from this style because they think that it's about reading romance stories. Well, part of it, yes. But Romantic Academia is not all about love, pink, flowers, and romances. In this context, Romantic may refer to Romanticism, a literary movement that emerged around 1800, focusing on emotion, individualism, and appreciation of nature. And by emotion, I mean any emotion, positive or negative. So even though the Romantic Academia visual is close to the Light Academia side, you can say that its mood is somewhere between the dark and light, or maybe both at the same time. Moreover, Romantic Academia also focuses on love and lust, making reading and analyzing love stories common for this subtype. Romantic Academia doesn't only prioritize academic learning but also understanding emotions, so many people in this community also seek learning from life experiences. The color palettes for Romantic Academia are brown tones, pink, cream, monochrome colors, gold, pastel colors, and red. For outfits, They are generally more traditionally feminine. Sure, the basics of academic fashion are still there, but floral patterns, flowy silhouettes, laces, ribbons, and pearls are common. And similar to Light Academia, Romantic Academia gives you a spring vibe. Now let's see the items in the mood board. Lipstick markings, flowers, perfume cologne, mirrors, particularly handheld mirrors, butterflies, and letters, particularly love letters. Activities for Romantic Academia enthusiasts are reading and writing, especially poetry and love letters, studying and going to museums, galleries, cafes, and libraries. Dancing in general is pretty Romantic Academia, but ballet is more tied to the style. Now, book recommendations. Romanticism books like Jane Eyre are highly recommended. The Picture of Dorian Gray, despite being a Gothic book, explores the concept of beauty and art. Classic romantic literature like Romeo and Juliet is another great choice. The recommended movies are Becoming Jane, a romantic biographical movie of the writer Jane Austen. Another movie to watch is Midnight in Paris, a romantic story of a screenwriter who travels to Paris and finds himself transported back to the 1920s, encountering various interesting historical figures like Ernest Hemingway, Scott and Seda Fitzgerald, and Pablo Picasso. Another recommended romantic movie, despite being so well known already, is Beauty and the Beast, a love story of a beautiful bookworm and a beast prince. Chaotic Academia. I believe most students, especially college and high school students, can relate to the Chaotic Academia aesthetics very well. Chaotic Academia embraces the mess that comes with studying. Messy schedules, messy rooms, scattered lectures, and anxiety are not unfamiliar to students. Reading banned literature or books that are generally forbidden from being taught in school is another, iconic activity for Chaotic Academia. I think this aspect suits the chaotic students very well. They might be chaotic, but they are still knowledgeable, or at least somewhat focused on learning. The color scheme for this aesthetic is a bit tricky. You sure can't go wrong with brown, navy, blue, black, white, or other muted colors, but really, most Chaotic Academia would just throw any color in anyway. For fashion, you can choose preppy clothes like other Academia styles, but something too neat wouldn't look chaotic. To add the messy filter, simply wear your clothes a little bit baggy or leave some button unfastened, or just switch the whole blazer thing to hoodie because, well, it's comfy. Switching from leather shoes and pleated pants to sneakers and jeans, well, because, it's comfy. And you're allowed to wear torn clothes since you don't need to care if you look like an honor student or not. For objects, you definitely need academic items like books and notebooks, but you'll have them naturally, not intentionally, disorganized. Surprisingly, many Chaotic Academia mood boards have more modern items included, like cups, whether they are vintage or not, or even electronic devices like phones or earphones. There is no strict rule for Chaotic Academia activities, but if you want some guidelines, which I figure you don't, activities that align with this aesthetics are learning, especially late at night because you were procrastinating, discussing conspiracies, debates, DIY, and drinking caffeine, including soda and energy drinks, not only coffee or tea. Books for Chaotic Academia lovers are banned books that discuss conspiracies or deem inappropriate for young adults, such as the books like Handmaid's Tale, a classic one, and The Truth About Alice. The Truth About Alice is a book about Alice and a false rumor that she slept with 2 guys in one night, how she caused the death of one of the guy, and the consequences that the rumors had on her. If you like banned book, why don't you try to read a story where every single book is banned? Fahrenheit 451 is set in a dystopian world where every books are illegal. The protagonist was a fireman, not the fireman that puts out the fire, but a fireman that burns book. Though I don't see this book being mentioned in Academia forum much, I think that the Academia community, especially Chaotic Academia, will appreciate it. And the recommended movies for Chaotic Academia are Good Will Hunting, The Breakfast Club, and The Class. The Darkest Academia may not be the most popular academic style, but if you know me, or if you have been watching me for a while, you know I can't stop talking about Gothic stuff. Dark Academia may have already been inspired by Gothic architecture and literature, but Darkest Academia, or what I'll refer to as Gothic Academia from now on, embraces every Gothic element possible, including Gothic values in finding beauty in what others might define as dark. Dark Academia might take inspiration from the Oxford and Ivy Leagues. Gothic Academia is more like Hogwarts and Nevermore. Despite the color palette of this style being all black, adding a touch of burgundy, white, dark emerald green or purple can complement this style very well. So, in a fashion sense, you can just choose clothing from the Dark Academia style and turn it all black. There are still elements that help distinguish your Gothic Academia outfits from the Dark Academia ones, such as laces and ruffles. Chelsea collar is absolutely amazing as it looks both academic and Gothic at the same time. Items in this style are a combination of Academia and Gothic aesthetics, so you can find books, papers, and vintage stationery along with elements like moon, skull, crosses, crows, bats, roses, swords, and daggers. Apart from typical academic activities and learning about the occult, going to haunted locations or visiting graveyards is pretty Gothic Academia. While any Gothic book can be suitable for a Gothic Academia reading, the one that is both academic and Gothic is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This story combined the theme of pursuit of knowledge and the supernatural themes. Other stories to read are The Historian and The 13th Tale. For movie, though every Gothic book adaptation can be on this list, here are some that are not adaptations of classic Gothic novels. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, an adaptation of a dark fantasy story published in 2011. Other recommended stories are A Discovery of Witches and The Pale Blue Eye. The Pale Blue Eye is a movie about a murder in a military academy where the protagonist solves the mystery with the help of Edgar Allan Poe, the famous Gothic writer who was a cadet at the time. But of course, these are not the only academic aesthetics on the internet. Other notable ones are Witchy Academia, Green Academia, Theatre Academia, STEM Academia, and Art Academia. If you want me to make a video about these aesthetics as well, just leave me a comment or just click like on this video so I know that you like content like this. To wrap everything up, let's talk about criticism. The Academia aesthetics have been facing various criticism, like Eurocentrism, snobbishness, prioritizing appearance over knowledge, encouraging unhealthy lifestyle, and subtle or not so subtle sexism. I can see where these comments are coming from, since the starter pack of Academia books is mostly written by Europeans, and there are very few female leads in classic books. However, the Dark Academia aesthetics does not aim to just copy and paste the past in its entirety. People only take inspiration from the classic stories. A lot of recommended stories you can find nowadays are not all male dominant, or include only about heterosexual love, or only focus on European literature. Next point, Dark Academia can be expensive. Well, still, there are many people who thrift or DIY their clothes and decorations. Sure, it would be easier to just order expensive refined items, but it's not like a cheaper option is not available. There's an attempt to make academic aesthetics more inclusive, which is how a style named Grey Academia existed. Grey Academia is described as Dark Academia with less classism, sexism, and indulgence. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing that people are making the aesthetic less problematic. Still, Dark Academia can be more inclusive by itself as well, without relying the existence of Grey Academia. Lastly, some people may claim that this community is only concerned with appearances instead of reading. There are people who hoard books for decorations or just hoard books just for the sake of hoarding them. Bibliomaniacs and bookshelf decorators are nothing new. Nonetheless, it's not as if people don't read at all. Many people join this community because they are readers from the start. Moreover, style has the potential to make people be more interested in books, like how some people can work more efficiently in a coffee shop or be inspired to write with classical music on. Well, I'm not saying that this aesthetic is perfect. Overindulgence, excessive pursuit of knowledge, and prestigiousness are not non-existent. And overworking yourself, or maybe the chaotic academia style of procrastinating until it's almost late, don't really sound healthy. Like many aspects of life, You can choose what aligns with your personal preferences and needs. As in, you don't need to force yourself to read a book you don't like just because it's classic or just to fit in the academia aesthetic. There are so many books or other classic books you might enjoy. Hi, thanks for being here. If you were to ask me which academia I like, I would definitely choose Gothic Academia since I tend to enjoy Gothic novels more. Again, thanks for being here. Hope you have a nice day. See you on the next journey.